you were to go through them and looked at the bottom line, you would see that our expenses and income for the various years led to some significant differences in one year or another. And just to review quickly why this came about, such a variety of, remember that this is income and expenses where we receive funds that are designated for specific reasons. For example, when we collected for the auxiliary bishop, we collected over $64,000. So that will show up as a plus because we don't spend it as it comes in. It's held for that purpose. But in 2008, there was a significant deficit in spending because we decided as a council to purchase the property in Fairhaven that was made available as well. Given that Nikita isn't here, I can very openly say that the council realized that we were not paying Nikita anywhere near the expenses that he was incurring. And so we gave him an increase in salary and also gave him some back pay. And then in 2009, again, we've had a number of collections that were brought in that raised the profile of the income. So we do have more money in the accounts, but they're designated for specific reasons, as the cases point, the auxiliary bishop. Some of the highlights I wanted to touch on, and you've already heard, I already talked about, or have been talked about, is the St. Tihan Stewards, the Fairhaven Appeal, the auxiliary bishop, the car purchase, the episcopal secretary, and the Pachayev icon. Some of these have already been mentioned, but I'm talking it from the financial perspective. STAS is a response to address this shortfall in meeting previous assembly resolutions. The episcopal secretary was passed as a resolution by this body, I believe in Vancouver in 1982, I think. 1993. So it took 17 years approximately for us to act on that resolution because we had no money, and the only way we could actually act on it was through the formulation of STAS. And so STAS will be given a report later in this assembly, but fundamentally they've been able to raise funds to start the process of supporting the episcopal secretary. The Fairhaven Appeal. When the episcopal secretary arrived, he's already spoken to this in his report, he realized that there was a need to upgrade some facilities. So a letter to the parish was sent out seeking support. The outcome of this was that we got $6,169.78. But unfortunately, most of this money was actually given by people who attend church services, periodic as they are, at St. Silouan at the Fairhaven Center. So we collected money, not even enough to fix this roof that you see in this picture, which is deteriorating. Auxiliary bishop, this was a real terrific outpouring of finances by the faithful around the diocese. We've collected over $65,000 on an annual basis. We still collect a little bit that's trickling in. However, now the auxiliary bishop is in place and we are spending that money. And so in my calculations, at the rate we're spending, we get 4 years of support, and then there's talk about a second auxiliary bishop. So folks, car purchase. Again, there was a mention of this earlier, so I won't dwell on that, but essentially a letter was sent to parishes. 11 parishes to date have responded. One that gives annually $50 per month. Total received so far is $5,500. Car payments are $465 per month, just over $5,500 per year, $5,500. Total cost of car was $35,000, so but no interest. But we're now in deficit for the next 5 years unless we find more money. There goes the car. The Episcopal Secretary, STAS, has been successful in raising enough funds to cover the very basic salary of this Episcopal Secretary position. I underline that in red. However, the Archdiocese covers additional costs of travel and office expenditures, and the shortfall essentially is about $3,000 so far. The Pachayev icon visit to Canada. Some very good news in the sense that we were able to, as mentioned by the protodeacon, raise over $42,000. There was about $13,000 worth of expenses. Some parishes were very successful, Toronto Christ the Savior, in raising $20,000, which was remitted to the Archdiocese. Some non-Archdiocesan parishes participated and also contributed. Icon was miraculous. A number of you have experienced that. The outreach was exceptional. But the fundamental question I have is this the best way to raise or to meet financial obligations by having special events? Parish contributions to the Archdiocese. In the year 2007, we received $144,000, $148,000 in 2008, and then $160,000 or so in 2009. But these numbers are a little bit misleading because there are included in these numbers are other specified purposes. In other words, money in, money out. For the St. Arseny Institute, as small as it was, as you heard earlier today, nevertheless, there was dedicated to that. So it didn't stay in the Archdiocese operational, it was sent to the St. Arseny Institute. International Orthodox Christian Charities, the Middle East, the Cathedral Icons, a number of the examples where parishes sent money to the center for purposes of distributing elsewhere. So if I eliminate those numbers, the actual numbers are 140,000, 145, and 158. Then, if I take away in 2008 the reality that we also collected for the All-American Council, so the dues for the All-American Council came to the Archdiocese and were intended for the purposes of the use to pay for our obligations for the center. It was about 8,252 from the various parishes. And in the Pachayev icons from our parishes, we received $31,000. So these funds were exceptional. So in reality, actual contributions to the Archdiocese are the bottom line. So what does that mean? It means that they are going down. Yes, indeed, they're not going sideways, upwards, they're going down on an annual basis.
Oh, that was cute.
But I went on the Revenue Canada website, which is a public website, and I went through a listing of our parishes and found out how much each one of these parishes has contributed, or at least made in revenue and reported to the Revenue Canada. If I take those 25 parishes, and not all those parishes not all of our parishes are enumerated in that 25, there's $2,383,000 worth of income reported to Revenue Canada by our parishes. So, if 10% first fruit in 2008, we wouldn't have had 136, we would have had $238,000 from our parishes, from just those 25. So it would have been 250 if you think about all the other parishes that are not on that list. So, what is and who is? This is the list of our parishes that I used for this sample. And you'll see there's 4 parishes. This table 8 in your background document if you want to look at this closely. But there's only 4 parishes that have exceeded the 10% first fruit principle. And I must admit also that some of these parishes, in fact, also had exceptional contributions to the Archdiocese, and so therefore they didn't really also meet that 10%. So, here's my last slide, 10% first fruit implications. What would be the implications if indeed we were to receive that first 10% first fruit? For 2008, $110,000 more. We would probably mean that every parish would be equal. They would be giving 10% of all their income. Right now, as you saw on that slide, it's from 0 to 11%. So the 11% parish is subsidizing you if you're not giving the full amount. I would suggest that stats would not be needed, and we would be able to support the Episcopal Secretary without having to go back to the individuals to give additional funds. Special appeals, the CAR, the Fair Haven, we probably wouldn't need to do that. We would have the funds to be able to meet these obligations. Auxiliary bishop would be continued to be supported. Episcopal secretary would be, his expenses would be met. And finally, from my perspective, we may even be able to hire a bookkeeper. So, but of course, most importantly, each parish's obligation to our ruling bishop would be met, and scriptural teachings of giving a first fruit would be realized. Thank you very much.